This week, Parliament took up the discussion on the Wayanad landslide under a calling attention motion. Now, it's a motion where any member of Parliament, with the permission of the Speaker, can ask a minister to answer about an urgent public matter. The Union Home Minister Amit Shah was asked to answer, and he responded saying the Kerala government had been given early warnings about potential landslides by the central government, and despite this, it did nothing. The Kerala government has now denied it, but the question is, whose fault was it? Could the Kerala government have avoided these deaths of over 200 people, where entire villages got washed away? That's the question we're going to try and answer in this video. But first, let me tell you what happened. This is Wayanad. In the monsoon, it becomes a paradise. Tea estates, forest, clouds, sky. It's a favorite weekend destination for most of the people from South India. But on the 30th of July, terrible rains triggered 3 landslides in just 4 hours that nearly buried the villages of Mepudi, Churalmala, Vaitiri and Mundakai. At least 177 people have died. This is the official toll. 200 have been injured. A few organizations like Malayana Manorama right now have the death toll pegged at 285 people. The 2 villages of Churalmala and Mundakai have almost completely been washed away. Asianet News reports that Mundakai, out of the 400 houses, only 30 are still standing. Rescuers are facing difficulty reaching certain portions of the village because it's been cut off completely. The bridges have been swept away. Thermal imaging is now being used to locate bodies that are trapped inside the debris. But Kerala is no stranger to floods and landslides. Now, between 2015 and 2022, according to India Today, India experienced a total of 3,782 landslides. Kerala had nearly 60% of them. And since 2018, there have been 5 massive landslides in the state, in Kozhikode, Palakkad, Wayanad and Malappuram districts, of which a total of 160 people have been killed. But this was the worst one. Back to Parliament, where the Union Home Minister Amit Shah, speaking to Rajya Sabha, said that the government had given Kerala enough warning. This is his entire statement that I'm going to read out for you. He said, I want to clarify that on the 23rd of July, the government of India gave an early warning to the Kerala government 7 days before the incident. Then again on July 24th and 25th. And on 26th, the warning was given that there was a chance of heavy rainfall and a chance of landslide and mud flow. Despite this, the Kerala government failed to respond. 9 NDRF battalions have been dispatched on the 23rd of July, 3 more sent on the 30th of July. This was a vulnerable situation. Why were the people not shifted to safer places? They were only shifted after the disaster, end quote. Kerala Chief Minister Ira Jha has quickly rebutted and said the red alert was issued for the district only after the landslides hit. He said the day of the landslide, it was only an orange alert. The Chief Minister has also said that the area received 572 mm of rainfall in just 48 hours. That's apparently 6% of its entire annual quota in a few hours. He also claimed the NDRF teams were deployed because the state had requested them in the beginning of the monsoon because of its preparation of potential floods and natural calamities. He went on to say when something like this happens, you can't just shift the blame onto others. He said, I don't think this is a time for blame games, end quote. But what is the real truth? Now, the Hindu newspaper has looked up the backdated IMD press releases for all of its alerts, and it has published that the orange alert for heavy rainfall was issued for places over Kerala on the 29th of July. The landslides happened in the early morning of the 30th of July. The red alert happened only after 1 p.m. on the 30th, which is after the landslides had in fact occurred. But the Kerala government cannot completely absolve itself of all responsibility. Development, chopping down of trees, quarrying, blasting through the hills, single crop agriculture are all to be blamed. The Hindu newspaper spoke with C.P. Rajendran, who is a geoscientist, who said that deforestation that started in the 1980s has gradually changed the soil conditions. High-intensity rainfall has aggravated the problem and caused landslides. Now, I also want you to remember that Mundakai is one of the 18 areas that was identified as ecologically sensitive areas in Kerala by the Madhav Gadgil Committee 13 years ago. Quick sidestep to explain what that is. Back in 2010, the Union Ministry of Environment and Forests in India set up the Western Ghats Ecology Expert Panel. Now, it was set up to study the impact of population, climate change, and development in the Western Ghats, and it was headed by one Madhav Gadgil, hence it's called the Gadgil Commission. Now, the commission submitted its report in August 2011, and it had pointed out 8 areas within the Western Ghats that were ecologically sensitive. And it had recommended that all development activities like mining, construction of power thermal plants, dams, stop completely, and any project that's already started be decommissioned. At that time, the committee's report was criticized for being too environmentally forward and not people-centric enough. And there was pressure from developers and from the public to force the government at all levels not to carry out any of these measures. The report was rejected. Now, the newspaper The Hindu also in its editorial notes that landslide-prone areas like Idukki, Kottayam, Malappuram and Wayanad, it's been evident for years that they feature heavily in the landslide risk maps. So the blame for the landslide's deadly occurrence must be shared by climate change and the state government that has done nothing. Kerala is sliding past the point of having any option to balance development needs with environment concerns. So it's reached a point really where you can no longer have this argument of, oh, we still need to develop. Because if it's going to fall down on your head, what is the point of that development? Now, on the climate change angle, the Arabian Sea apparently is becoming warmer and warmer, and it's caused something called deep cloud systems. These are clouds that, and I'm not exaggerating here, look like giant cotton balls, and they lead to very short but very intense showers in a small area. Now, S. Abhilash, the director of the Advanced Center for Atmospheric Radar Research in Cochin University, has effectively said that the Arabian Sea is becoming warmer and it's causing an atmosphere above the region of Kerala which has become thermodynamically unstable. This is what he said to PTI. And he said this will cause extremely heavy spells of rains in shorter and shorter periods of time. And he said that pattern of rainfall is being observed right now since 2019 over Kerala, causing floods and landslides. Fundamentally, in conclusion, this is where we are. The Kerala government must take responsibility for not protecting the ecologically sensitive areas where the warnings have been issued. Now, the monsoons in Kerala, as we all know, have become increasingly a dangerous time. Homes are regularly flooding, rivers and canals are overflowing, and lives are being lost. The government could argue that its short-term IMD warning was not issued on time, but it cannot argue that it's been paying attention to the long-term warnings that have been sitting on its table for decades and the louder warnings that are being issued by nature about climate change. I think fundamentally it boils down to this. The Kerala government must take responsibility for not protecting the ecologically sensitive areas and the warnings that it has received. Monsoons in Kerala have become a terribly dangerous time. Homes are flooding, rivers and canals are overflowing, lives are constantly being lost. So the government could conveniently argue that it didn't receive the rain warning, the short-term warning from the IMD in time, but it cannot argue at this point that it has paid attention to the long-term warnings, the reports that are sitting on its tables, its own scientists within Kerala that have constantly been telling them that this sort of development can no longer happen. Climate change is a real thing, and governments have to start paying better attention.